Hi, I'm Taylor with Mom on the Spectrum, and in this video, I'm sharing 10 practical ways that professionals can support autistic people. So, whether you're a medical provider, a therapist, a teacher, an emergency responder, I've designed these tips to be practical guidelines for supporting not only autistic people, but neurodivergent people in general in society. As I said, I'm Taylor. I am a late diagnosed autistic mom. I was diagnosed about 4 years ago, and it totally changed my life. And spurred me to start creating content to teach others about what autism actually is and how it presents, especially in women. One thing I want to share with you today is my absolute favorite accommodation that I've made for myself since learning I was autistic. I never thought that I would be a person who benefited from earbuds to help reduce sound input, but I wear earbuds all the time now, and I can't believe what a difference it makes in my life. So I'm very sensitive to what I put in my ears. I don't like the feeling of anything being in my ear. So that's why I absolutely love Flare Calmer earbuds. I've tried so many out there, and this is the only kind that I can tolerate. What I love about them is that they're very small and they fit very easily inside the ear, and there's a hole at the bottom so that sound still passes through. This is what I love because I can't stand the muffled sound. Makes me feel like Charlie Brown with the teacher that's like "Wah, wah, wah, wah." But I put in the Flare Calmer earbuds and I can still hear everything that I need to hear. It's just like it's at a more manageable level. If you're interested in trying them out, I will put a link in the description. There are several different versions available. The one I showed you is the Calmer Pro. These are my new favorites. But I also love the option with the lanyard on it because it makes them harder to lose. And it's available for kids and also adults. So check that out. Link in the description. Really, really helps me with sensory overwhelm that I didn't even know I was experiencing until I used them. Okay, let's jump into our list. The first thing you can do to support autistic people is to provide clear expectations and stick to the plan. The second part of that is very important. We've had these conversations in the autistic community where, okay, there's rules to follow, but people aren't following the rules. And that makes things even more overwhelming. So if there's any instance, like let's say a teacher, for example, you're going to be describing an assignment to the class, um, if you in advance could have the assignment written out on a piece of paper that we could follow along with as you're describing it to the class. That helps so much because a lot of times hearing instructions can be overwhelming. It helps to see them in writing. So anytime you can provide very clear expectations and then follow through with the process that you've created, that's extremely helpful. The other thing that I want to add here is you can also provide an invitation for follow-up. That is really helpful to say, please let me know if you have any more questions. I'm happy to help clarify anything that you still need help with. That invitation is really inviting. And a lot of times we feel like we need permission before we can do things. So if you open the door for further discussion and say that it's okay to follow up with further questions, that's super helpful as well. The second thing you can do to help autistic people is to use visual aids whenever possible. One example of this, I scheduled an appointment for my daughter who has to go to the dentist. And the dentist, the first email we got from them was a video of the doctor doing a 2-minute walkthrough of the office. He said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Smith. This is the front office where you'll walk in. This is where you'll sign in. Then you're going to sit here in this waiting room for a couple of minutes. And when you're called back, you're going to go into this room where I will meet you for the first time. And this is what you can expect at your first appointment." Something like that is huge. I could not believe when I was watching it, I was like, this is so simple and so effective. So again, this kind of goes along with the first point of setting expectations. If you can incorporate visual aids to help clarify those expectations, oh my gosh, totally a stress reducer for autistic people. The third thing you can do to support autistic people is to focus on the why, WHY. Focus on the why behind things. We don't want to do it if we don't know the purpose of it. And I'm generally speaking for our community, but the why is so important. And a lot of times we ask questions. We ask a lot of questions to figure out why we're doing what we're doing. So if you can start off with that, like if you're running a meeting, here's why we're having this meeting, here's what we're trying to accomplish at this meeting, that will help us to more fully focus our attention and be able to contribute more of our energy when we feel like we can get behind the reason that we're doing this in the first place. The fourth thing that you can do to support autistic people, and I'm got my notes out now because my executive functioning has left the building for the day, allow time for processing or transitioning between activities. Transitions are notoriously hard for our community. If we're going from meeting to meeting or from outside to indoors, any type of transition can be difficult for us because it takes us a bit to get acclimated to a new environment. So anytime there's going to be a transition, if you can anticipate that, maybe talk through the transition and then also provide some extra processing time. So let's say in the classroom, your class is transitioning from recess to indoors. Once you get into the classroom, maybe you can offer some kind of transitional activity. Here's a coloring page, whatever. Obviously, this depends on the age group that you're working with, but to provide some sort of cushion time to give people time to adapt to being in a new place with new expectations, which goes back to the first point, providing clear expectations. Okay, the fifth thing that you can do to help autistic people is to reduce sensory overwhelm in the environment. So any input that we can take in through our senses, whether that's lights, sounds, smells is a big one, anything you can do to reduce that can help us show up more fully, be more present, more fully engage with you, and use more of our energy for the task at hand rather than trying to process the sensory input that we're receiving everywhere. So for me, if the lights are too bright, it actually sometimes I don't hear what you're saying. Like I could be standing right in front of you and looking at you, but all I'm able to process is how bright the lights are, and none of the words you say make sense. So fluorescent lighting is really harsh. Most of us don't like that. Lamps are usually better, or natural lighting. Making sure that there's no weird smells in the fridge, cleaning it out regularly, or having some type of nice smelling scent. I know lavender is really calming for me personally. And I love when places smell like clean or fresh. That's really helpful, but not too clean or fresh. Because let me clarify here. Harsh cleaning chemicals are really, really stressful for us. So if you have any control over how the environment is cleaned, using more environmentally friendly products are usually a lot more tolerable in terms of smell. And again, that can help reduce things that we're thinking about or processing when we're in that environment. The sixth thing you can do to support autistic people is to provide sensory supports when possible. So let's say you're a therapist. One thing you can do is keep blankets in there, keep, big stuffed animals, keep fidgets, keep headphones, any type of space where you can actually provide accommodations. It's not only an invitation to use it, but it's also a signal that, hey, this is a safe space where you can take the accommodations that you need in order to feel okay here. One time I went to a library and there was a sign that said, what did it say? Like sensory bag available upon request. And they just had these bags put together behind the counter and you could come in and ask for it. And it had headphones. I think it had reading material that kind of described the location and where you could find the bathrooms, that type of thing. So having like a pre-made type of accommodation, that's a huge signal of you're safe here and we've considered you. We've considered you and want this to be a better experience for you. That goes so far. So the seventh thing you can do to support autistic people is follow up. Autistic people notoriously deal with something that we call delayed processing, where you might give us a lot of information and you might think that it made sense to us. But for me, when I receive new information, I usually don't fully process it until I've had time to go away to my own space and think about it for myself for a while. And then I can come back and more fully integrate myself into that experience. So following up and saying, hey, I know it's been, a day or two since I sent out that email. Do you have any questions? Is there anything that I can help clarify so that you know exactly what to expect? Going back to expectations that we talked about, number 1. Okay, number 8, don't talk down to us or change your tone of voice. So I've actually had this happen in the doctor's office. This nurse and I were getting along pretty well. And it's always kind of this question to me, like, am I going to share my diagnosis or not? Because you kind of have to figure out what grid that person has for mental health and autism. And so this nurse and I were getting along and she's like, is there anything else you'd like the doctor to know? And I was like, well, I'm autistic. And as soon as I shared that information with her, she kind of had like a sing-song voice and, okay, thank you for telling me. And I was 34 when I told her this, and it just felt so patronizing and like just invalidating. So please don't talk down to us or change your tone of voice. It doesn't help anything. Okay, the 9th thing you can do to support autistic people I wrote down this question because this question just makes me so happy. Ask, what other questions do you have for me? I love it when people ask that question. What else? What else? What else can I answer? What else? Because autistic people love to ask questions. And this is one way that we feel at peace and in control of our environment to where we can more fully engage is being able to ask a lot of questions. Understand that they can come across as judgmental or like we're questioning you. I mean, you know what I'm saying there. But it's really just to get a better understanding and to clarify so that we can more fully engage with you. So allow us to ask questions and then ask us, like, what else can I answer for you? That to me is a signal that it's safe for me to get the information that I need to get in order to feel okay. I love that question. And the 10th thing you can do to support autistic people is to understand the goal is not how can I be brought up to your level, but how can you meet me and appreciate me at mine? I think a lot of times when we talk about accommodations, it can come from this place of, well, how can we bring, neurodivergent people up to this level so they can experience things the way that we do? It's not about that. We don't want to be on that level. We want to stay on our level because it's a great level and we want to be understood at our level. So think less about how can I make an autistic person's experience look like mine and more about how can I understand the autistic person's experience and what can I learn from it. There's so much that autistic people do in really creative, thoughtful, intentional ways. And I think there's so many patterns that we have that can be very helpful to people who aren't autistic. So again, rather than trying to get us to come up to your level, I'm not even say come up. So again, just it's less about how can you bring us up to meet your experience of the world and how can you better understand my experience of the world. So these have been 10 kind of general tips for better supporting autistic people in society. I'd love to hear your tips in the comments. And please, if you're actually wanting to learn more and research, the comment section here is going to be a great place to keep getting more tips. The conversation here is always really enlightening. This is a fantastic community. And together we are working towards educating and advocating for the autistic community to have more of a voice and to be better represented. So please scroll the comments here and check out what other people are saying, the suggestions that they have, what works for them. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for wanting to learn how to better accommodate autistic people. I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with resources and events that we have here for education and advocacy. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.